Namaste and a heartfelt welcome to everyone for this discovery and exploration session about what is it our bodies are trying to tell us. And so I'm hoping that you'll join me in going through an in-depth session, even though we have this short time together, to really not only learn about the science of what's going on in our bodies and how to experience cellular healing, but to really go through your own personal session of uncovering and discovering a bit of what the body is trying to reveal to you, be it with headaches and aches and pains, and it can be, injuries we've had or even illnesses that we've had in the past or here right now. Our body is always trying to signal us. And so before we dive into this session, I'm aware that the Queen has died, Queen Elizabeth in Britain, and I just wanted to pay tribute to her before we dive into this session. I had the privilege of living in Britain for 25 of the last 28 years, and she was such an inspiration to me of a leader of state, yes, but she was absolutely dedicated in service to her public, to the country, to the Commonwealth, and to the world. And there were over 200 charities that she was heading up and on the board of. And every day, her constant service was to her duty. And indeed, even there at the end, 2 days before she passed, she helped turn over the prime ministership from Boris Johnson to Liz Truss. And it's 2 days before her body gave out, and still she got up to do her duty. And I was always inspired by her because her moral rectitude was unshakable, absolutely unwavering. And I had absolute faith and trust in her. And in the 25 years of living in Britain, I became aware that she'd woven herself into the fabric of Britain and indeed our world. And I think all the world looked to her and saw someone they could admire, someone they felt warm towards, who was truly, passionately in service to life, to her country. And so I wanted to say that we all in the world, it was an era. I turned 70 next year. And so for the time of all my life, Queen Elizabeth has been part of that. And even though I'm American and all of you are calling in from countries all around the world, we all of us have been touched by her grace, by her dignity, her steadfastness. And she provided in Britain a feeling of stability. And even in the worst of crises, she brought her strength and calm to all of us and was great comfort. And I know when she spoke that speech during COVID, that we will meet again. I knew that we would, that those of us there, that we would meet again. And there was something so penetrative about her speeches that brought us all in unity in the world. And I think it's quite telling that even in America, the flags are at half-mast, though she's a British queen, until her funeral, so for the next 10 days. And so I feel that she has left behind her a great legacy. And I am deeply grateful for her presence in all of our lives, no matter what country we're from. And just that being that steadfast model, that inspiration of duty and service. And she was known for her warmth and her humor. It seems that, all the presidents that spoke about her, and she certainly met with 14 presidents in the United States, that they spoke of that. And there was something very all-embracing about her presence that welcomed all, and it was a humble service that she offered to our world. And I only wish that our leaders in all of our countries would let her be a model of the incorruptible, the moral integrity of what's possible in leadership and in service. And so a heartfelt thank you to Queen Elizabeth, and your legacy will live on in all of our hearts. And also a heartfelt embrace of the royal family and the beloveds, all those in Britain and the Commonwealth, and indeed all the world. There's an outpouring of love for her long, 70 years of reign. And it feels like there's an era that's ending now and a new era that we don't know what's coming, but she somehow permeated all of our lives. And so I'll begin with that and a heartfelt thank you. And for all of us as we go into this session here, I wanted to share with you, those of you who are new to the journey took place 28 years ago, and I was diagnosed with the basketball-sized tumor. And even though I was in the complementary medical field and I was teaching courses in living health and was certified in so many different areas and accredited in alternative health and healing and well-being and personal growth, I still ended up with this basketball-sized tumor, and it really sent me reeling, and it catapulted me on this massive, radical, life-changing healing journey. And part of the gift of that healing journey was I uncovered a means for all of us to go on our own healing journeys and to really dive inside of ourselves and to begin working with our own souls to uncover what is stored inside of our bodies, and to go through a very deep and very profound process of release and letting go and ultimately forgiveness of ourselves, of life, of each other, of God, so that when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. And the journey was originally based on the science of what is happening in the field of cellular healing, which since 1992 has hugely, in the last 30 years, exploded and is just continuing to develop around the world. And what's been unequivocally established by science is this, and I'm sure it will make a lot of sense to you. I'm sure as I speak it, a part of you knows it's true. That when we feel a strong emotion and we repress it, we deny it, we pretend it's not there, we push it away, we try to reframe it into something positive. So when we're at the peak of that strong emotion and we repress it, it releases into our bloodstream a quantifiable biochemistry, which will go to certain cell receptors and block them, rendering our cells incapable of communicating with the rest of the cells in the body, which they do normally. And if over time illness happens, of course it happens where the cells are blocked. What's also conversely known to be true about our emotions is that when we feel our emotions, our feelings just naturally, openly, like a child does, our cell receptors remain open. And so what happens is this, when we've had that strong emotion and we've repressed it and that biochemistry has been released and it gets stored in a certain part of our body, it remains buried there, stored in our cells. And when the next cell generation is born, that programming, that consciousness is passed on to the next cell generation. And this gets passed on for generation after generation. And so when I originally went to my surgeon and I was diagnosed with this basketball-sized tumor, she said it probably started as one cell when I was 8 years old or something. And it replicated into two. And then over time, and 3 months before I went in to see the surgeon, my cells were replicating exponentially. And I indeed looked like I was about 6 months pregnant, though I knew I wasn't. And so that's the way the consciousness that we buried, the programming gets passed on from one cell generation to the next. And at the time that I had the tumor, there was a lot of research going on in the field of cellular healing. And one doctor, Dr. Deepak Chopra, who was at that time not the guru that he's become today, but he was a chief surgeon general in a hospital in Boston. He decided to do a radical thing. He said he would study people and collect case studies of people who had healed without medical intervention, without drugs, without surgery of any kind. And the reason this was so radical, and he actually collected hundreds and ultimately thousands of case studies of people who had healed without drugs or surgery. And the reason this was so radical at that time is it didn't matter if you were in the orthodox medical field or in the complementary medical field as I was, we were all trained the same way. Look at the symptoms that cause ill health, which eventually lead to death. So we were always focused on what makes people die. Chopra said something different. He said, we know enough about what makes people die. I want to know what makes them heal against the odds. And so after collecting these hundreds and ultimately thousands of case studies, he found that people only had two qualities in common. That as he looked at all their different versions of how they healed without medical intervention, the only two qualities he could find in common is one was that through some act of grace or spontaneous event, they got access to this that he called the infinite intelligence, the part of you that makes your heart beat and your eyes shine and your hair grow. And the second thing that they had in common was that through some act of grace or spontaneous event, they actually got access to this that he called the phantom cell memory. And what we know about the cells inside the body is that they're all replicating at various speeds. So for instance, if you're looking at liver cells, well, in 6 weeks' time, the old cells will die off and be replaced by new cells. Stomach lining, 3 days. The one that just blows my mind are the eye cells, because when you touch the eye, it feels firm, doesn't it? Do you know that in less than 2 days' time, in less than 48 hours, you will have an all new inner eyeball? As a matter of fact, there won't be a single molecule in your body a year from now that is here today. Not a single molecule. But Chopra asked a question no one else was asking. He asked, well, why is it that if you look at a liver that's riddled with cancer in January, why would it be riddled with cancer in June? If it's replicating every 6 weeks, it's all new cells. And at that time, nearly 30 years ago, what he postulated, which has subsequently been verified by scientists all around the world, is that stored inside the degenerative cells are these old repressed cell memories. And before that cell dies, it passes on its consciousness, its buried pain, all the unspoken words, the memory itself onto the next cell generation. So the next cell generation is born as an exact replica of the previous cell generation. And this programming gets passed on from one cell generation to the next. And in my case, I finally ended up with this massive tumor. And so the gift of my own healing was to find a means for all of us in a very real, direct, and practical way for you to go on a journey inside your body to specific cellular locations, to uncover that old programming, to release the stored consciousness, to come to understand and release the stored pain, the unspoken words, and to understand what took place to you at that time that you had that memory. And ultimately, to come to a place of forgiveness so that when you forgive both other people, yourself, life, something quite radical takes place. That's when you let go of the whole story of pain. So that when the new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. And I was just sharing with Gabby Bird, the managing director of our the Journey Worldwide International, and she had done an interview with a man who is the owner of 3 hospitals in Israel. And in those 3 hospitals, let's say you have a heart operation. And once you've gone through that heart operation or whatever medical treatment you're going through, you then will go into a recovery center where you will undergo the journey to get to the emotional corollary of what's co-created the illness. They also have in another hospital, they're doing all the oncology research for cancer. And again, after you've undergone your cancer treatment, your medical treatment, you go through a week-long recovery program where you get to the root of what co-created the cancer in the first place. Same through with fibromyalgia and all injuries, accidents, whatever is there. And what's so beautiful is they've been doing this for 7 years, and it's now so codified as being so effective and getting lasting results that it now insurances in the medical insurance pays for people to go through this program because they see that people don't have their cancer metastasized. They don't have their heart problems come back. They don't have their fibromyalgia pain return. And so it's known for really getting to the root of what is co-creating the illness in the first place. And as she was interviewing Shauli, the man who's the director of these 3 hospitals, he was saying that all kinds of miracles take place. And there was this one man who had a carcinoma in the bones of his legs, and the medical field had gotten to the point that they felt that after seeing it all on the MRI scan, the only thing they could do was operate and amputate the whole leg. That was their only way of coping with this so it wouldn't spread, because it's a very, very aggressive cancer. And so he was scheduled to go into have that operation for amputation. And he went through 3 days of journey process work. And over the three days, the cell memories that he got access to was when he was born with a small birth defect. And at 4 years of age, his father abandoned the family. Never saw him again. And he felt that somehow he was to blame, that because of his birth defect, that somehow his father left because of him, and that it was him being flawed, being worthless, that drove his father away. And then when he was 18 years old, he finally reached out to his father again, who wanted nothing to do with him again. And it just confirmed this pain and this shame and guilt that he's so worthless that even after 18 years, his father doesn't still want to speak to him. And that he felt so much shame at being defective and felt himself to be a crippled human being. And this crippled consciousness was what was stored in his cells. And he said after 3 days of doing journey process work every day, that he came to a place of feeling complete acceptance for himself. that he got in touch with his own soul and realized that he's a beautiful soul, and he felt whole in himself. And instead of being defective and flawed and worthless and not deserving to have a place here on this planet, that he felt that he deserved to live, that he is a worthy human being, and he felt whole in himself. Now, approximately 2 weeks after that, he went in to go for his amputation, and his wife went in with him. And she explained to the doctors that he'd had this massive shift go on, from going to feeling really crippled and worthless to being feeling whole in himself. And would they do another scan before amputating the leg? And the doctor said that it was just a few weeks ago that we did the scan. We're clear about the carcinoma that he has, and we're going to go ahead with the amputation. And she begged and pleaded, even to the point of saying that she would pay for the scan. Please, please. They finally agreed to do the MRI scan, and they found no carcinoma there. Obviously didn't do the amputation, but they did find a little spot that they were able to suction out something, in an operation that was just suctioning it out. So he was able to maintain his own leg. And so this is the healing power that exists within all of our bodies. Our bodies are always healing, but when we have these patterns, these themes, this old stored consciousness stored inside our cells, then that programming gets passed on from one cell generation to the next. And so what the journey really is an invitation to your own soul to be guided by the infinite intelligence inside of you, to the part of you that makes your heart beat, the part of you that's making your cells replicate, the part of you that is regenerating, opening into that boundless field that is your own essence. And it's at that deepest level that you are guided by your own soul to go inside the body to those specific cellular locations, to uncover what's stored there, and to go through radical release and really learning your life lessons and coming to a place of understanding and wholeness and forgiveness. So when new cells are born, they're born as new regenerative cells. Now, of course, I can't take you through the whole in-depth teaching about the journey. It's a 2-day immersion at the Journey Intensive online, which is actually offered on your time zone, likely. Over this next month, it'll be offered in Australian time zone and in European time zone and American time zone. And so it's a 2-day immersive retreat where you really not only learn how to do it, but you dive in with various meditations, introspections, and every afternoon you have a one-to-one session where you're undergoing the journey process work and really liberating yourself and coming to wholeness in yourself, like this man. And it's not my prayer that you do a 2-day immersion and it's just this huge wash clean. It's my prayer that you take these tools and use them in your life. And so I can't go through the whole in-depth teaching, which requires you to really desire to get real, to desire to uncover those buried issues and to really go through your own process of release and letting go. And I truly believe, after working with hundreds of thousands of people over the last 28 years, that no one can tell you what your healing journey is. Part of your healing journey is you uncover your own truth. You find your own answers. You learn your own life lessons, your karmic lessons. You clear ancestral issues and issues you may have brought in with you and issues that you developed in this life. And you come to such a place of wholeness in yourself that your body and your being can heal. And I don't believe anyone can do that for you. I feel part of it is you discovering your own truth. So I thought it'd be wonderful for us. I can't take you, into that in-depth process, but I'd like to take you into a little exploration today so you can begin to learn how it is to listen to your body, how to welcome the different emotional issues, to really open into what your body is trying to tell you. So if you're open to just doing a little divine experiment here, let us all take a nice deep breath in together, letting it out, and another nice deep breath in, and sighing it out, and closing the eyes, and becoming aware of your own awareness, that it's vast, spacious, free, and endless in front of you. That it's boundlessly spacious and free behind you. That your own presence is vast and open, spacious to all sides of you. And just resting here, letting your heart be as wide as the world. Wide enough to welcome the emotions, the words, the teaching that your own body wishes to give you. That's how vast this vast open sky of all acceptance is. And let's turn our gaze now inside of our bodies. And you already know this from what I've just shared, that our bodies, like this container full of all kinds of emotions. And our emotions, they're like little kids. Some are loud and attention seeking. Some are shy and scared of us. And some of your feelings or themes have been so rejected by you that, like a little kid, they hide behind closed doors or underneath lids, and they don't even come up anymore. So putting out a welcome to all the feelings, all the words, all the teachings, the learning, that your own body is able to give you. And some of you have wrote to me and said that you've been diagnosed with a specific illness. And I'd like for you to bring that into awareness. And really kind of speak out into your room what that illness is, or that physical injury is. Or others of you wrote that there's just continuing aches and pains, that you may have had an injury in the past or something took place and you've got aches or you have recurrent headaches. And so for those of you who fall into that category where your body's signaling you, but you're not sure what is signaling you, I'd like you to go and locate that part of the body where there may be a little tension or stress or holding or hiding or maybe contraction going on. Locate that area right now. Take a deep breath in of acceptance, flooding that area with acceptance. And just letting it soften that area. Just tenderize that area. And if there were a feeling starting to come up out of that area, what might that feeling be? It might be as quiet as a whisper, so just stay open. If there were an emotion arising, what might that emotion be? Or if this area could speak and had words it needed to share with you, that it needed to say, what would this part of your body say to you right now? And just let the words arise in your awareness. As you listen to the words, how do they make you feel? Or if there's a picture showing up, ask your body that you step into the picture and you feel what was going on at the time. What is here? Just welcoming this part of the body that's been signaling you for some time. And the welcoming of it to allow its emotions, words, beliefs, lessons, all of it's allowed to come up. And to make this easier, I'd like to ask you to imagine in your mind's eye that you're sitting, the present day you is sitting at a campfire. And this part of your body is going to take up residence as a physical form appearing in front of you, and that it can speak to you. So you can almost dialogue and converse with this part of the body. And so put the present day you at this campfire, the you that's sitting here right now. Bring this part of the body to a campfire and now give it a physical human form and the ability to speak and have a voice. Also invite a mentor whose wisdom you trust. It can be a sage, a saint, an enlightened master. It's something or someone in whose divine wisdom you trust. And so I'd now like to ask and have the present day you ask of this part of the body. What have I not been willing to listen to? What have you been trying to tell me that I've not been willing to hear? And now let that part of the body empty out loud and whisper it into your room. There's a potency that happens when you allow the body to speak out loud, and just speak out the words. What was I not willing to listen to? What were you trying to communicate to me? On the count of 3, start speaking out loud. 1, 2, 3. And now asking if this part of the body had any advice or request of you. What would that advice or this request of you be? What does it want from you? And on the count of 3, speaking that out loud. What is this part of your body requesting of you? What does it want from you? 1, 2, 3. Speak it out loud. Now ask the body, what have I not been willing to face or feel? What have I not been willing to face or feel? And on the count of 3, speak the answer to that out loud. 1, 2, 3. And now asking this part of the body, has there been a recent time where this emotion came up and I shut it down? Where I got triggered in some way and this emotion came up and somehow I shut it down. So has there been a recent time that this emotion has been shut down or buried, denied? And let it give rise to a picture or a memory, something that's happened over the last 6 months. Has there been a recent time where this emotion that I've not been willing to face or that I denied has come up and I pushed it away or buried it again? That I got triggered and I shut it down? 1, 2, 3, answer that out loud. Now ask, what have you been trying to communicate to me through all of this? Now there's pain here, or there's aching here, or there's an illness here. What have you been trying to communicate to me? What are some of the negative beliefs or ideas I've had? And just empty that out loud. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. What have you been trying to communicate? What are some of the negative beliefs I've had? Be honest. And now asking, how can I support you in becoming free from this pain or consciousness? How can I support you? Just speak it out loud. 1, 2, 3. And now saying to this part of your body, I genuinely wish to open into what's really going on here. I genuinely am open to you giving rise to this that I've denied, suppressed, buried. And I genuinely am willing to begin freeing myself. I promise to begin listening, saying this to your body. And now going inside your body again to that original place where you felt that contraction, that holding, that hiding, and just flooding it with your acceptance and this willingness to begin your healing journey of listening to yourself. Taking a nice deep breath in. And sighing out. And another nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And if it feels appropriate, make a promise to your body that you will start listening, that you will start healing, you will start feeling, you will start being present to what it is the body is trying to communicate. Taking another nice deep breath in. And once again, another nice deep breath in and sighing it out. And the heart is as wide as the world. Wide enough to welcome all of this the body is experiencing. That's how vast this love is. It's spacious, vast, and infinite in front of you, boundless behind you, and free and endless to all sides of you. And taking a nice deep breath in, sighing it out, and another nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And you can open your eyes now into this vast field of awareness of your own presence. And another nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And if the eyes have not yet opened, this is your invitation to open your eyes now. And you can open your eyes now. So, if I had to put in a nutshell, what is the journey? The best way I could describe it is to give you a metaphor. That we, all of us, come into this world as this radiant, shining diamond, as a vast, infinite presence of peace, of awareness, of love. As a matter of fact, science has found that when an infant is newly born and in the first weeks of life, it feels itself to be such a vast presence of love that when mother's hand comes before its eyes, it actually feels mother's hand as being part of itself. That's how vast this love is. But unfortunately, through the course of life's pains and trials, this infinite awareness, this oneness with all of life, with all of existence that we came in with, this enlightened awareness, it got covered over with a series of shutdowns, limitations, negative beliefs, mental constructs, hurts, pain. And it can be something simple like, I remember I was 8 years old and I grew up in a domestically challenged household. And one of the ways I used to escape was into my books, my children's books. I used to love reading. And of course, if you become a good reader, you become a good speller. And I was chosen by my third grade teacher to represent our school in what is called the spelling bee. And it's where you meet in a stadium with all the other schools and all the teachers and the students and parents come. And so I was on stage representing the third graders from my elementary school. And I'd already spelled 3 difficult words. And then they gave me probably one of the easiest words in the English language, the word fleet. Well, no one had given me a manual. How do you deal with a word that you've never even seen before in a book? And so I thought, well, I've seen the word flea, an insect. And I said, F-L-E-A-T. And the whole stadium was hushed. And then it erupted into laughter. And no one had given me that manual. How do you deal with mass humiliation in front of everyone? You know, your peers, the parents, the teachers. And I looked to my mom, who was sitting in the third row, and she looked at me as if I was the greatest disappointment in her life and just shook her head and went like this. And internally, I remember it so clearly. It was as if this wall just came slamming down inside of me. And I decided that day, I'm so stupid. People will only ever laugh at me. I'll never be good at anything I do. I'm just a laughing stock. I'm worthless. And I went to go sit in the back of the stage with the other losers. And it's like this. We have an event happen and a shutdown happens. That biochemistry was released. I can remember I was 16 years old and I got my first crush on this guy. And I tried to impress him, and you know how that goes. And I made a total fool of myself. And I watched the first love of my life running out of my life. And of course, that day I decided I'm so unattractive. I'm so unlovable, unworthy of love, that no one I'm attracted to will ever want to be in love with me. Layer upon layer upon layer. And then when we get to be adults, we cover this whole mess over. It's like this polished veneer that we present to the world. We're saying, oh, no, I've got it all handled. I'm responsible. I'm dependable. You can count on me. And meanwhile, we wonder why it is everyone thinks we're so full of, you could answer that sentence. And then life gives us a wake-up call. And these wake-up calls can come in so many different forms. It can come in the form of loss of a loved one or a divorce. It can come in the form of a serious illness or someone goes off to war. It can come in the form of a loss of a job or in returning aches and pains or recurring illnesses or injuries, where for one moment you decide to get real and you crack through this mask that you're presenting to the world. And spontaneously, you end up opening down through the layers of the lies, the shutdowns, the pain, the hurt. And you eventually, spontaneously, open into this infinite field of love, this vast awareness that you came in as an infant. And you realize it's been there all along. Only like me, you bought into all the layers that covered it. And then if you get to be very lucky, as I have been more lucky than I could possibly thank God, life, the universe for, you fall so in love with the truth inside of yourself. You fall in love with your own soul. And like me, you will do anything to clear whatever blocks you, whatever holds you back, whatever shuts you down on any level of being, so that this radiant essence that is yourself can live your life. So if I had to say, what is the journey really all about? It's about getting real. It's about opening down through the layers of the pain and the shutdown and the cell memories and opening into your own soul. And then being guided by your own soul on a journey inside your body to specific cellular locations, getting access to the cell memories, going through a deep process of release, letting go, forgiveness. So when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. And so this is why the journey is used worldwide by medical doctors and in hospitals, psychiatrists, and by hundreds of thousands of people around the world from all walks of life, to enable us to get to the emotional root cause of what is co-creating our pain, our illnesses, our injuries, and clearing it out at the absolute depths of who we are, so that we can allow the healing potential to work its magic. And so if you feel that you uncovered just a little thing, and that wasn't a journey process we did, that was just a little tiny toe dip of an exploration. But if you felt you uncovered that your body is trying to speak to you, with all my heart, I invite you to the Journey Intensive online that's happening. And the most extraordinary thing has happened. Our team our international team that works around the world, and we work in 39 countries. The work is translated in 23 languages. I'm actually doing a no ego retreat coming up where 22 countries will be there at an in-depth retreat, and it'll be translated in 8 languages. So this tells you something about how internationally vast this work has become. And we're also aware of what's been happening. Not only have we lived through COVID and loss of jobs, and then the Ukraine war, and then the energy crisis, and now inflation is happening. And so they did something utterly unprecedented. In the 28 years that I have been offering the Journey Intensive, it has never been priced at 97 euros. And so I really want you to get this, that's about 1/5 of the price that it normally goes for. And it's because we want to make this work available to you during a time when people are concerned about their energy bills. They're getting food on the table at a time with all these natural disasters going on and climate change, and where the world is in tumult. We're doing everything we can to support you in getting this life-changing work that has helped heal hundreds of thousands of people. And so please take advantage of this offer. This is the first time in 28 years it's gone for anything like this price. And it's a 2-day immersion where you really dive in, not just getting teachings, but you're getting the skills, so that my prayer is you go away from those 2 days and you're able to give it to your children, your parents, your friends, and you could have the same experience that I shared about that happened with that man in Israel. That was just 3 months ago that this is, and that's just one of tens of thousands of reports of that kind of thing that we've heard over the years. So I really, if your heart is feeling called, if you're aware that you're blocked by anything emotionally, that you're hurting somewhere, then get to the Journey Intensive online, and you can, call and book an appointment to talk to somebody to find out if this work is for you, because this is not work for people of casual interest. This is people who sincerely want to heal, who sincerely want to dive in to their soul and clear their soul's issues, the ancestral issues that have been passed on through their DNA, to clear karmic issues, learn life lessons, to really come to that same place of wholeness that man in Israel, who only had 3 processes, came to. That same wholeness, that same feeling at peace with himself, being worthy of life. So please click the link and either book directly on to the one that's happening in your time zone, or book a call and just talk it through with somebody and find out, is this work for me? And so I look forward to catching up with you after these Journey Intensives are happening, and having a live satsang together where we can work together on issues that you have unveiled and cleared at the Journey Intensive. And until then, a heartfelt namaste to everyone. Namaste.